Time now for an in-depth look at the market news this afternoon, and for that I'm joined on the line by Mr. Daniel Yu, Global Strategist at Yuanta Securities. Mr. Yu, good afternoon. Thank you for coming on today.
Good afternoon.
Well, the U.S. stock markets were closed on Monday for Memorial Day. In Europe, stocks were down for the day, but they did well for the month. Asian stocks today kind of a mix, but mostly higher. What's the story in the global markets?
Yes, in general, everybody is looking at a lot of the retail sales data coming from all over the world, and it seems to show that there are quite significant recovery that's happening. If you look at Japan's retail sales number, it jumped 12% year on year in April, and it seems to be happening in a global pace. European stock did a bit of a correction yesterday, but today it's showing quite significant rise, because the Eurozone economy is rebounding from double-digit recession caused by the pandemics. All in all, vaccination is driving the recovery, and overall retail sales numbers are all recovering on the global scale. And I think that will have a positive implication for U.S. market as it opens in the future. All in all, sentiment seems to be quite positive in terms of the equity market because of very strong economic data.
Right, and as we just mentioned a minute ago, a lot of international organizations and the Korean government itself have been raising their growth forecast for the local economy, and the latest one to do so is the OECD. It's calling for growth of 3.8% now, and that's an increase of half a percentage point. How do you think all this optimism is factoring into the markets?
Yes, today Korean market did quite nicely. As you said, the South Korea's economy is forecasting to grow 3.8% this year on back of strong export growth and exponentially macroeconomic policies. If you look at the projection before, it was 3.3%, has revised up by 0.5 percentage point. OECD is saying that there's a very strong overseas demand for IT products, which accounts for the fifth of total exports, and automobile is lifting the export in general. So all in all, this is putting quite positive implications for Korea. Also, the government is putting relief packages to help the households and firms, and clearly this is a positive news for Korean economy. So if the Korean economy grows by 3.8% this year, the equity market probably has more room to go up higher in the future, given the fact that the earnings growth for Korean Kospi is expected to be over 55% this year and another rise next year in the future.
Well, oil prices are up today by about 1%, with demand expected to rise and outstrip supply in the second half of this year. Another commodity, gold, is up too for a third day. What do you see happening with these commodities?
Right. If you look at the oil price, it's up about 1% on Monday. It's driven by the expectation that the demand is recovering with the summer travel and reopening economies. And it will accommodate easily, even though there is quite a bit of an increase from the OPEC plus productions. All in all, even though there's a shale gas productions that will be picking up in the future, we do expect continuously overall the numbers will be quite positive for the oil demand for the time being as the economy recovers. In terms of the gold, if you look at the money supply growth rate, it is looking at about year-on-year growth rate of about 17% for the M1. Because of that, we think that there will be more room for alternative assets, which is gold, and gold price is expected to show further rise with the inflation coming in as we see.
And speaking of those kinds of issues, if we could look at cryptocurrencies for a minute, Bitcoin has seen a little bounce back up from its recent low, but of course it's still down around 40% from where it was in early May. Where do you see crypto going from here?
Right. It all depends on what happens to the M1 growth rate and the liquidity in the system. If you look at the U.S. M1 growth rate, it is around 17-18% year on year. If that's the case, then the currency value does decline as the rise of M1 happens. If that's the case, the demand for the gold or cryptocurrency rises. At the beginning of this year, most of that demand for the alternative asset was all focused on cryptocurrency. However, with the government regulation coming in very heavily, and that results into the cryptocurrency correction, while the gold price rising quite significantly. All in all, we should calculate as adding both sides of assets. including the cryptocurrency as well as gold and maybe silver, and estimate that value as a total to rise by somewhere between 15 to 20% per annum. It's clearly inverse relationship between gold prices and cryptocurrency. As the cryptocurrency prices corrects, the gold prices rises. However, though, in terms of the cryptocurrencies, it seems to be kind of bottoming out recently, given that has corrected quite significantly from the peak to bottom of over 50%. As the demand for the alternative asset continues to remain quite strong, we think that the price should stabilize and overall alternative asset value to rise YOY this year.
Got it. All right, we'll have to leave it there for today. Mr. Yu, thanks so much for sharing your insights with us. We always appreciate it.
Thank you very much.